Please join us in welcoming our next speakers, who together drive the product roadmap for JFrog's DevOps Core, SVP of Product Engineering, Yossi Shaul, and VP of Product, Gali Zisman.
Diamonds under my eyes. Turn the rhythm up, don't you wanna just come along for the ride? Oh, my outfit's all tight. You can see my heartbeat tonight. I can take the...
Okay, wow. Hi everyone. I'm Yossi Shaul, and I'm leading the product and engineering of Artifactory. And together with me on the stage today is Gali Zisman, who leads the product group of Artifactory. In this session, we are going to present and demonstrate some of the new and exciting capabilities that we developed and Yoav mentioned just shortly before us. So let's get started, and I want to start by describing you the journey that we took in order to support your development teams with their software development lifecycle. So Artifactory, from the very beginning, supported the notion of isolated artifacts that are stored in isolated repositories. Those repositories could represent different teams, different technologies, and different maturity levels of those artifacts. Also, from the very beginning, we supported the notion of promotion, allowing you to take a bunch of artifacts and promoting them from one repository to another, using the UI and using the REST API for automation. We then introduced the build info. The build info is an SBOM, software bill of materials, that describes your build, including the build artifacts and the build dependencies. It is created during the build, usually by a CI system, and with JFrog integrations and JFrog CLI, we collect all of this information and ship it into Artifactory together with the build artifacts. Now, with the introduction of the build info, we took the notion of promotion and managing your software supply chain to a higher level. You could now take an entire build and promote it through the different stages of your supply chain. We also introduced release bundles, which you have mentioned also with the introduction of JFrog distribution. Now, a release bundle is also an SBOM that describes your software releases. It is usually created later in the software supply chain, when you have a release that is ready to be shipped to other Artifactory or Artifactory edge nodes. And along the way, we also integrated all of those phases and all of those elements with X-ray scanning capabilities to detect, mostly to detect software vulnerabilities and open source licenses. Now, this combination of tools, isolation of artifacts, promotion, build info, release bundle, distribution, everything scanned by X-ray is very, very powerful. And we've seen many of our users, lots of them are here in the audience, taking those tools and using them extensively. But as you have mentioned at the beginning, it was not enough. It was still quite hard, and you had to work hard to build it yourself, to connect all of those dots. And some of the things are not easy to do. How do you know and you make sure that your release went through all of the phases that you defined as mandatory for this process? How can you track it back all the way to the CI server, to the factory, to the version control system? It was not easy, and we heard it from many of our customers. So we took the challenge, and we gathered everything that we learned along the years, all of our experience, all of the information that we collected from our users, from our customers, from our partners, and we came up with a solution. We came up with an opinionated solution, which is flexible and gives you some of the important elements that you need in your software supply chain. So something that is simple to understand and simple to use, something that gives you visibility through all of this process to know exactly which phases your releases and your software supply chain went through, allow you to govern it by inserting mandatory quality gates and quality checks. And finally, providing you with a trusted system of record, a platform where you can keep all of this information immutable, signed, and secure. So I'm proud to announce today what we call the release lifecycle management. And I'm going to demonstrate and show you how we connected all of those thoughts together. But before I do that, I want Gali to tell us everything that she can about the building blocks of our solution.
Cool. Cool. So thank you, Yossi. Before I start, I want to introduce myself. My name is Gali, and I'm VP Product for Artifactory. I joined JFrog about a year ago, and since then, I learned two very important lessons. First is how important are our customers to us. We listen to your pain, your problems, and all the solutions that we're going to show here on the stage are driven by it. We want to solve your problems and your pains. And second is how seriously we are taking swampUP. This means that everything that we're going to demonstrate up here on the stage is already available to you. It means that you can take it back, you can take it, integrate it back to your processes and start benefiting from it starting today. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in and talk about the different building blocks that comprise our new solution. First is the release bundle. As you know, today when you release a software into production, it's typically comprised from multiple elements. You have your artifacts, your packages, your microservices, your modules, and many more. However, you don't have a single place where you can see all the content of your release. You don't have a single object that's describing it. And that's exactly what we had in mind when we took the release bundle that was already existing, but very close to the production, to the distribution phase, and we pulled it all the way to the left. We did it to enable you to do what we call the release first state of mind. We wanted your developers to be able to create a release bundle as soon as possible in the release process. So we gave them a set of very flexible tools to do that. You can create a release bundle out of your build info using the CLI, using AQL, and even create a composite release bundle of release bundles. Once it's created, the release bundle is essentially a signed SBOM of all different elements of your release. It's tied together with all the metadata that is describing it. Once created, it becomes immutable, which means that you can no longer change it, but you can only aggregate more and more metadata to it. That also gives you the opportunity to promote it and distribute it as a single unit. The next building block is environment. As you know, your software supply chain is comprised of multiple stages. In many cases, you will describe those stages based on the environments to which your software has been deployed to. We took that concept and implemented it. So our environment is essentially a set of repositories coming from multiple technologies, aggregated together, and now you can give them a significant name. By doing it, you can also get many benefits. You can now create different policies for your different environments. For example, you can decide that your development environment, you want to keep it relatively loose. You want to allow all your developers to upload and download content and modify it and play with it as much as they want to. However, you want to keep your production environment much more strict. There, you want to only allow the admins to play with the content and modify it. On top of that, because we gave it a meaningful name and created this logical view of your supply chain, now you can have visibility into how many releases are actually existing in each of every environment. You can also track how long it took for your releases to move from one environment to the next. And just imagine what doors this opens in order to track your R&D efficiency and productivity. It also allows you to simplify your workflow and create automations around it. Next is evidence. Evidence is a totally new concept to the JFrog platform. So we talked about the release, we talked about the stages. But as the release moves from one stage to the other, it leaves behind a trail of documents. These documents could be your source coverage scans, it could be your security scans, it could be approval gates, and it's also all the different operation and actions that your developers and the team took on your release. The evidence were designed to tell the entire story of your release, starting from the development all the way to the production. So once it reached the latest stages, you can look into it and see exactly what happened to your release in every state. Today, we are supporting internal evidence, which means that we are tracking all the internal operations that happen within the JFrog platform. Moving forward, we'll also allow you to deposit external evidence and connect the different documents to the release. The next step is the promotion. Promotion is not an entity, it's actually an action, but that's the thing that ties it all together. Promotion is actually the action of taking one release and moving it from one stage to the other, from one set of repositories to another set of repositories. The promotion, as I said, leaves behind an internal evidence that you can later track, and you can create any business logic decision based on that. On top of that, the promotion itself gives you a place to put your approval gates and decide on whether or not you want to allow the promotion to happen based on your criteria. Last but not least is distribution. Distribution is not that different from promotion, but it's intended to cover the last mile. Once your release is ready to be shipped, you can use the distribution to distribute it from one Artifactory to another, or from one Artifactory edge to another from one Artifactory to the Artifactory edge. Similar to promotion, this creates an internal evidence that you can later track and also allows you to set approval gates. So I hope everything that you heard right now got you very excited, and I'm going to move it back to Yossi to demonstrate to you how it's going to look in production.
All right. Thank you, Gali. So I want to spend one more minute before I'm starting the demonstration to explain what I'm going to demonstrate. So we have in the setup environment, we have an Artifactory central server sitting in San Francisco, and this server is connected to X-Ray and JFrog distribution, with JFrog distribution connected to two edge nodes in London and in New York. Our simulation of the demo starts with the build process. I'm not going to show it, but we simulated the build process that creates a sample application. It takes the sample application together with the build info that I mentioned earlier, taking it and deploying it to one of the environments that we created, the dev environments. The sample application is composed of 3 different technologies, and each one of the artifacts is going to a different repository based on its type. So we have 3 environments over here, dev, QA, and prod. Simple yet realistic example of a release pipeline. So we are going to start with the dev environment. I'm going to create a release bundle out of a build info. This is one of the ways, probably a popular way of creating a release bundle. And then I'm going to promote it to the QA environment, going through one of the mandatory gates that we defined with X-Ray. So X-Ray is going to scan it, produce an evidence that it happened, and then moving the artifacts, copying the artifacts, the release artifacts, and changing the state of the release bundle to the QA environment. Once we are happy, we are going to do it to the prod environment. And from there, when we are ready to distribute it to the different edge nodes, we are going to use JFrog distribution to do just that. Okay, so let's start the actual demo. So a quick look at the environment again. So we have the topology over here with San Francisco, the main server, New York, London, 2 of the edges. And we also configured 3 different environments, each one with its own set of repositories. So as I mentioned, we are going to start from a build. So we simulated several builds. In this case, I'm going to start with a build that was scanned by X-Ray, and X-Ray found a critical vulnerability. But for the sake of the demo, we are going to start with that. So drilling down to the build, That's the build info with the components that we have in the sample application. And I'm going to use the UI to create it. Of course, everything that I demonstrate is also available and probably with more options through the REST API, but it's a good way to demonstrate through the UI. So I'm going to create the release bundle. Every release bundle has a unique name, a unique version. I'm going to give it a version 101. So based on the build info, we automatically detected which components, which artifacts it contains, also the dependencies, which are optional. I'm not going to include them here. Okay, I created a release bundle. Let's drill into it. So that's the one I just created. So the first page that we see here is the action tracking. This is where we can see everything that happened with the release bundle and all the evidence that we collect through the software supply chain, through the stages that the release bundle went through. At the moment, only one action, I just created it. We can also have a quick look at the content, the packages, the artifacts, which types they are. And as mentioned, it's an SBOM. It's a JSON file that we signed and we keep immutable. So our next stage is trying to promote it to the QA environment. So again, doing it from the UI, hitting promote. We have a signing key already performed for this action, and I'm going to select the target environment, which is the QA. Hitting next. Now we automatically detected all the technologies, the different technologies that we are using, the different package types. And based on the target environments and the technologies, we also automatically selected the matching artifacts, the matching repositories. Okay? In this case, we set it up exactly as we like, but in other cases, you may choose different set of repositories. You can also configure it via REST API, but here we are happy with the automatic selection, and I'm going to attempt a promotion to the QA environment. And it failed. Not surprisingly, this is exactly how we set it up. Reminding you that the build we started with has a critical vulnerability. In this case, it was found before we created the release bundle, but in other cases, we might have created the release bundle from build info, which was definitely okay when we started, but a vulnerability might have happened afterwards. So if we want to look at the details, I'm opening the message here. We can see that X-ray blocked it. Going to open it in a new tab, having a quick look at what's wrong with the release. So we have here scan results of X-ray, something similar to what Yoav showed you about scanning the developer environment. Hitting one of the CVEs, we can see the different information about it from X-ray, including which components is affected, what is the current version, and how to fix it. You also have lots of other information, either from public sources or from the JFrog research team, very extensive and informative information. So in the real world, we would take this and figure out how to fix it. In this case, we will it's the log4j. We are going to upgrade it to the new version. So assume that we did that with the new build. Now, before moving on to show you the next build, I just want to show you the artifact itself. When we tried to promote the release to the new environment and it was blocked, it didn't pass the quality gate, nothing happened. Okay, so we didn't copy, we didn't move any artifact, we just recorded an evidence that it failed. So if we look at the repositories of the QA, we can see that they are empty. Okay, going back to the build. So we have a new build with an upgraded version of log4j. I'm going to do this a little bit more quickly. So new version for the new release, same content. And we have the new version over here. Going to promote it again to the QA environment. Let's do that. Perfect. This time it was successful. And again, as our software supply chain processes continue, let's say we tested it, we added additional checks, and we are happy and we want to move it to the next stage. Again, just hitting promote or automating it. I'm going to move it to production. We now detected it's a new target environment, and we detected a new set of repositories, now promoting it to the production repositories that we configured for this env. Let's do that. Perfect, successful again. And if we have a quick look now at the artifacts tree, we can see that we have the dev environments, and we also have those artifacts promoted, the specific version promoted to the QA environment and also to the production environment. Great. Now, the last step in this demo is to take all of this once we are ready again, and using distribution to distribute it to two of the edge nodes that we have. Again, let's do it from the UI. I'm selecting the two edge nodes that we want to promote to, and we also want to automatically create those repositories in the target if they are missing. Okay, it's going to take a few more seconds. Perfect, successful. So, and what you see here is a trail of what happened with this release. Again, a very simple one, but conclusive. And everything here is kept as an evidence behind the scene, something that you cannot change, you cannot modify, and you can use to prove and make sure that your release went through the stages you wanted to go through. Again, if we, some of the evidence provide more details. So in this case, the distribution one, I can open it, I can see what happened. I can see that it went through two of the different edge nodes. No need to see it now. Okay, back to the slides. So I hope that you managed to see how we connected everything together with this simple demonstration of those capabilities. And as we continue our journey towards extending those capabilities and adding joining more personas to those capabilities, I want you to start imagine what you can already do with the things that I showed you for the different roles, different responsibilities in your team. For instance, dev managers and managers in general who can define quality gates through this process. The CISO who can also participate in those processes, defining security gates and enforcing them and seeing dashboards of those things. The compliance manager who can take this information and generate reports showing which phases the release went through. And this is not all. There are many others not mentioned here that can benefit from those possibilities, not just the traditional roles that we are working with. Now, there are few more that are not mentioned here explicitly, but were mentioned earlier. Those are the data scientists, the AI practitioners, the MLOps engineers, and I want Gali now to tell us what we have for them.
Thank you. So we've been on the stage for about 20-30 minutes, and we didn't mention MLOps, data scientist, or any of that. And that, of course, is unheard of. So if you look behind me, you can see that the AI and ML world is currently exploding. Everybody is talking about AI and ML, everybody is doing it, everybody is playing with it, and so do your developers. Whether you like it or not, they are already bringing the models into your organization. When we looked at it, we realized that the state of the AI and ML market today is not that different from the software and open source software market about 10 to 15 years ago. And the challenges are the same. So we thought about it and we said we are the best company to solve those challenges. We already solved the SDLCs and the binaries challenges for you. We want you today to start realizing that you need to bring your ML models and bring them into your SDLC. Many of you in the audience are already our customers. That means that you're already trusting us to solve all your binaries challenges for you. What we want to empower to you today is to bring your ML model into your SDLC and treat them similar to any other binaries that you have within your organization. We are already giving you binary 360, meaning that we're giving you all the tools and the capabilities that you need to manage those binaries. As I said, the ML models are not different. They're just another set of binaries. Next is universality. As you all know, Artifactory is probably the most universal package manager out there. We make a promise many years ago to support any kind of binaries that is out there. And today we want to keep that promise to you and include this new set of binaries into our solution. Last but not least is the scalability. The model files are huge. They are gigabytes in size. Only Artifactory is the only platform that can support this kind of scale and allow your developers and your data scientists to consume this model in the best way. So without further ado, I'm happy and excited to announce our native support for remote and local repositories over Hugging Face. So let's talk a little bit about the details of our solution. So first thing that we're giving you is the option to create remote repositories over Hugging Face. Hugging Face is an open hub where you can very simply go to and fetch models to. However, that also means that you have the same risk that you have with the software, with your open source software. It means that you are at risk of the models tomorrow disappearing on you, changing on you, modifying, or anything like that. We want you to solve that through the remote repository by allowing Artifactory to proxy and cache those models for you and protect you against all these changes. Second is the X-ray scans. So even today, X-ray is able to scan the models, find any licensing violation, making sure that the licensing is in compliance with your regulation and how you want to control them within your organization. On top of that, X-ray is also able to scan the models and look for malicious code. And our friend from security, Eyal and Asaf, will talk about it in the next talk. Last but not least is the local repositories that you can create to host what you have called Model++, meaning the model together with all the artifacts that are related to it. You can host there all the intermediate elements that you created along the process. You also can create and host there the data sets and everything that you need and make it accessible for your developers to start using and moving around the organization. On top of that, now you can take it, promote it, distribute it, and make sure that you are able to deploy it in a secure way to the runtime. So I'm going to hand it back over to Yossi and have him show you a demo of how it works.
Okay. Thank you again, Gali. Okay, so let's start by having a very quick tour around the Hugging Face. Now, just before I start, how many of you heard about Hugging Face before? Quite some. Okay, so why did we choose to support Hugging Face first? The reason is that Hugging Face made the AI and ML even more accessible than it used to be, much more than that. They support exchanging of models and data sets and sample applications, and also provide open APIs to be able, for us to be able to use it. And by that, they lower the bar a lot, giving all of the other developers who are not expert in this domain the possibilities and the ability to use open models in order to experiment and insert AI and ML to their processes. So that's Hugging Face. And if we look very quickly just around the model section, we can see here the different models that are available. In our demo, we are going to use object detection, one of the models over here. So you can see if you ever browsed any other package manager, package portal, you will be very familiar, like Docker Hub, PyPI.org, NPM, etc. So nothing special around here, just information, license information, description of the model, etc. from Hugging Face. Now let's start with the demo. So for the sake of the demo, my team of frog lovers, they created something nice for us. This is the Jupyter Notebook, one of the popular interactive IDEs that data scientists are using. And this is the entire short program that is written in Python. Let me run it just quickly for you. We will start with the mandatory imports and also the configuration of the model itself. This is where we consume the model, configured it. Now, let's see what we are trying to do. So we are trying to detect who is a frog and who is trying to impose as a frog. And I guess all of you can detect who is a frog and who's not. Let's see if my team, with the help of the model that you just downloaded, we're also able to do that. So let's move on to the next section. And this is the actual section that tries to detect the frogs. Let's run it. Voila, seems like we managed to detect it. Wow, very impressive. So you might not be impressed, but and you probably did and saw things that are much more sophisticated done with AI ML. But the point here is not how sophisticated this one is, but how easy it was to do this demonstration. And I guess several years ago, it wasn't that easy. The team that created it, they looked at the portal, they took a model, they configured it. You saw a few lines of code, and you have something quite nice. And this is why we wanted to be the first platform who support those community and help them do it in a secure and safe way. And behind the scene, we use Artifactory. We already configured the notebook to use Artifactory, and we consumed PyPI packages, we consumed the model, everything went through Artifactory. We saved lots of bandwidth. I didn't even dare trying to download it through this demo. Those are huge models that are used for doing this kind of things. It was saved in Artifactory, cached, forever there. Some of you might remember several packages were gone from the public portals. And it was also scanned with X-ray for vulnerability and to make sure that the licenses are all right. So last part, I'm going to show you how I did it, how to configure it through Artifactory. Nothing special. Again, if you used one package, you'll know how to do it with another one. So let's do that. Let's have a quick look. So back to Artifactory, we have configured the local repository. I didn't demonstrate it, but we also support Locker, so you can take your own trained models and deploy them to Artifactory. And again, some of our users, many users actually, already use Artifactory even without the native support that we just added to store their models. They are doing it, and now they have a much better way of doing it. We also have 2 remote repositories configured. The PyPI to resolve the Python packages and the Hugging Face remote. Let's see the config. So pointing to Hugging Face, but also it is scanned by X-ray. And with X-ray, we defined for this demo, which I'm going to show you in a minute, to scan for licenses and disallow or block models that arrive without a license or license that doesn't match our policy. Now, in order to configure our environments and how our developers are going to use it, it's very simple. And again, like any other package, the easiest way is to go to the Set Me Up page. I'm going to hit Set Me Up, choosing the remote, entering my credential to generate a secure token. And those are the instructions. So we just need to copy the endpoint pointing to the Artifactory remote and also the secure token. So everything that we do is using my personal token in this case. And also we have an example how to resolve models in general if you want to use it. So if I go back to the notebook, this is the beginning of the problem. This is what I executed before, and usually developers are setting, this is how they set up their environment. So those two setup instructions. Also, I mentioned, and you have also mentioned, and you call it the model plus, that whenever you use models, you're probably using other programming languages, and you need other dependencies. In this case, Python. So we are using PyPI with pip. And in order to run it, we also had to install Python packages. And true to our universality concept, this is also done using Artifactory. So everything that was used, all the third party went through Artifactory, through the caching mechanism and X-ray scanning of Artifactory. And the last part that I want to show you is just what happens when we try to resolve a model that is not approved. So we have here the snapshot that I showed you earlier, and I'm going to try a model that is not approved by our policies. Quite simple, we are going to see here a message from X-ray that it was blocked. That concludes this demonstration. Now, everything that we showed you today is available for you to use. First, the new release lifecycle management. We released it and it was ready several months ago. So it's already available in production for you to use with everything that I demonstrated. The second thing, trusted ML models with Hugging Face support is available as an open beta on our SaaS service. So I encourage you to go and try it, go back to your company and tell about it to your developers and tell them to try it, give us feedback. I'm also going to be on our booth, so I'm open for questions and to hear your thoughts. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.